Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Kevin Bean. I'm the president of the Cascade Forest Mangum Manor community. Want to welcome everybody to the meeting this evening. We have a full agenda. So what we would like to do is go ahead and get started. What we'll do is that we will allow each one of the guests to speak, and then what we'll do is that after they've spoken or given their presentation, then we'll ask questions. The first person on is Cardellia Hunter, Director of Mayor's Office of Film and Entertainment. That will be followed by Inga Willis, which is our District 5 Georgia State Representative, which is also one of our community members. We'll just go on with the other members of the board at that. All right, so we will start with the mayor's office. Did I pronounce that name correctly? Cardellia?
You did, absolutely. Good evening, everyone.
All right, good evening.
Good evening. I'm Cardellia Hunter, Director for the Mayor's Office of Film and Entertainment with the City of Atlanta. On here this evening, I have my team who is really going to spearhead this meeting. LaShawn Cook, who's my production manager, and then we have Malcolm Twyman, who is our film production coordinator. So first of all, I'd just like to say thank you for inviting us on. I think you guys had some concerns in regards to filming, so any questions that you may have, we'll definitely let LaShawn, he's going to be answering you all tonight, as he pretty much handles our productions that, you know, the permitting process with the productions filming in the city of Atlanta. So I'm not really sure what all you guys want to know from us, or if you guys just wanted to jump in and ask some questions, but we'll go from there.
Why don't we do this? This is Kevin Bean again. Why don't we do this? Why don't we start with the process, how it works, and from the mayor's office, and then we'll go from there with the questions.
Okay, perfect. I'll take it away. Again, LaShawn Cook, production manager. So just to go over the process, the productions will meet with us and we'll discuss the logistics, and they'll submit their application. Any requests for any lane or sidewalks require 3 days, and any full street closures requests require at least 5 full business days. We don't have too much that happens in Mangum Manor. Just did some research on the productions. We've had 2 permits that we've issued both in October and December of 2022. To just kind of piggyback off the process, once the production submits the application, we vet it, we send a notice out to our stakeholders. That will go to your Councilmember Boone, and Councilmember Overstreet will receive a copy of that application, as well as Ms. Glover, who we have a great relationship with. I talk to Ms. Glover from time to time. So your MP will receive it as well. After that, the production is required to notify within 3 full blocks of the filming location. So everybody within, for example, Russ and Drew filmed on Kingsdale Drive in December. Everybody on Kingsdale, everybody on Lyndhurst, everyone up to Cascade Road should have received a copy of that letter. That letter should include the request that they have submitted to the city if they have any lane, street, or sidewalk closures, a brief description of the filming that's due to take place, dates and times of the closure request, and a contact from production that will be on site. Anytime a production receives a permit from the city of Atlanta and they obtain any lane, street, or sidewalk closures, they have to have APD on site. And that's the process, Mr. Bing.
Great. Truly appreciate it. At this time, then, why don't we open it up for questions? Anyone that has any questions, and I would ask so that we are cordial to everybody, if you would please mute your screens, and then once you're asking a question, then unmute and ask. And then let's start that direction. If we have to make any additional adjustments, just please be cordial to everybody. Okay, first question.
I would like to know if notification was not given, then what is the process to reorder that? Or how do neighbors protect their privacy, their driveways and mailboxes if no notification was given?
That's a great question, Miss Elizabeth. Yes, so first part, driveways, mailboxes, and access to your property. They have to be enforced at all time. Productions are not able to block the driveway. APD should be on site to enforce that a driveway is not blocked. The only time that there should be something that may be blocking your driveway is if you have done a deal with that production where they've rented it out. And if they've rented out your driveway, then there should also be something where they have been able to displace your vehicles for the time being. And to answer the first part of your question, if notifications are not distributed, we won't issue a permit to the production. It's a part of our process. They have to notify within 3 full business days if it's a lane closure, and they have to notify the community within 5 full business days if it's a full street closure. In the event that you see something that's happening, we have had an issue where there have been productions that have been filming without permits. Ms. Glover has made sure to reach out to us. I think Mr. Bean's the one that caught that production. We have a police liaison. We send that police liaison out to see what's going on and shut the production down.
So we call the police if this happens in the future?
I'll make sure that you guys get my contact information, my director Cardellia and my coordinator Malcolm. You should be able to reach somebody from our team. I know the goal here today is to see if we can get a film liaison for your community. That individual will just be a point of contact. So if there's a production that we have done business with, you guys should be able to have a contact for them. If there's any concerns, you guys can reach out to them directly.
And if I can piggyback off of that right quick, everything LaShawn said was correct. When he said earlier that when we send out our pending, council gets it as well as the MPU. A lot of MPUs have, kind of email blasts with their community. We always advise them, if you have some type of communication, to share it. That's one of the reasons why we give it to them as well, not for them to hold on to it, but just for them to know, just so they can send out to the community about it. 9 times out of 10, if you have a major production or something coming into your community, they're going to come and knock on doors. And if they have not came and knock on doors and you see them filming, you don't see any police, then 9 times out of 10, they don't have a permit. And at that time, you can give us a call, or you can, call your precinct. They're real savvy with us. They know about us and say, hey, can you come check this out? They don't have a film permit. Now, some zones will, come out and shut them down. And then some zones, if they come out and if they're parked right and everything, then they're going to say that they're not going to mess with them because they, there's no destruction of the way they're parked or no loud music of noise ordinance or something. So, yeah.
So question, I'm sorry. If I heard you correctly earlier, you stated that a permit is required if there is a lane closure or a sidewalk issue. Now, can someone film in the neighborhood if they are not closing lanes and sidewalks without a permit?
So they have to have, so the answer, if somebody's filming on private property, then they would not be required to receive a permit from the city of Atlanta. A good production will at least acquire a monthly permit from our office. It's essentially them doing their due diligence with the city, making sure that we have a certificate of insurance on file, etc. But if they're not impeding any right of way and they're fully contained to private property, they are not legally required to obtain a permit.
Okay.
So the issue is if they are violating public space, in terms of the public street and private driveways and mailboxes.
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
That's where the liability comes.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I ask what the issue is?
So
Because I know they do try to put cones out to block the mailboxes and driveways so people don't park and block them. And they do try to stay on one side of the street. Outside of that, can I ask what are the other concerns?
Well, before you guys go to that one, can I go back to Mr. Fowler? Mr. Fowler, a lot of times, the productions who like Mr. Cook said, want to go by the book, they'll call and say, we're going to be contained to all private property. Do we need a permit? We'll tell them no, but we'll ask them to please use the good neighbor policy and at least notify so that the community can know that there's going to be some filming contained to private property. Now, if you guys see that they ain't out on private property and you see all these cars up and down the street and there's no permits or something, then that means they violated what they said they were going to do, and definitely give us a call.
I think Randal Reid has had his hand up. And then we can go back to you, Mr. Hutton.
I did have, can you hear me?
Mhm.
Okay, I did have my hand up, but Mr. Fowler actually addressed my concern. And that was just about, it sounds like permit is needed if you're blocking driveways, sidewalks, or streets.
Correct. And no one should ever block a driveway.
Right.
You guys keep saying the driveway, even if they have cars parked, the working trucks parked, driveways can't be blocked. Now they can take a full street closure, but driveways, they can't put anything unless they have something, a location agreement with you. You guys said, they're gonna put their bathroom right there in front of your driveway. You're not gonna have to come in and out or something. But even when we give them a lane closure, they know that they are not to block the driveways. And I know that most, our homes here, our mailboxes are on the street. And so it's also a common courtesy that they don't, we still need the mailman to get by and do his job and do what he needs to do. Even when there's a full street closure, this does not allow the productions to detour traffic pickup or anything. We have had major productions who want to take the whole street, but they go the extra mile to get with the trash people to, for them to pick up or whatever. So sometimes you get these, every production is different. That's why we try to stick to the rules that we have.
Right. Mr. Hutton? All right, we'll move on to the next person. Got a question. What is considered contained to one property? What's the definition of that?
Everything contained on that property, whatever your property is. That means if they're gonna use your house and they're contained all to private property, that means their working trucks and everything are in your driveway. There is nothing to spill over on city right of way.
So that means there's no cast members
May not be as bad people think, but at least you're
parked
prepared.
on, no cast members or no one parked on the streets.
Correct.
No.
Hmm.
No.
So some of the homes
Because-
on Kingsdale, sorry, Cardellia, some of the homes on Kingsdale have that wraparound driveway, right? If those vehicles are fully contained to that driveway, and like Director Hunter was saying, nobody is spilled out onto the sidewalk, equipment, vehicles, personnel, everybody is on that homeowner's property line, they're not required. But we still do encourage that they notify as our good neighbor policy.
Absolutely. And a lot of times they will say, well, we're contained to private property. And then, we have to go back and say, okay, your work trucks and everything, where's your cast and crew? Oh, we're just going to park regular. They think because if they can just park, like we can legally park, that a permit is not needed. If you are filming and you impede our right of way, you have to have a permit. And a lot of times we find this where we have to kind of stress this is with our commercials, because they're usually in and out. They usually park their cast crew, on the street. I don't care if they pull a permit for a lane closure. We still don't allow them to have their cast and crew to even park in that lane closure. That is for working trucks, or that is to be open if they're trying to get a film shot and they don't want any cars in front of, whatever it is they're trying to get.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Got one question. Joy, you have a question?
My question is this: how long does a permit allow a filming crew to film? Consecutive days, months, years? What's the termination? What's the length of time that a filming crew can film?
Did you hear?
Yeah, that's a great question. Length of time that a film crew can film. So they have to reach out to us. That really is at our discretion. Generally, we do not like for productions to film in residential communities beyond a week, unless they have done their due diligence and made sure that all of the residents impacted are involved, right? They try to partner with the community. Most of the time, if a production's trying to be within a residential community beyond 5 to 7 days, we're going to have a production meeting. Because like Director Hunter said, it goes back to trash pickup services, making sure we coordinate if you guys have school buses that come through specific streets, etc.
Mm-hmm. And we've had productions who've been, I'll take, I think maybe Spider-Man Homecoming. They were in a community for a while, but guess what? They talked way in advance to that community. That HOA knew they were coming. I mean, so what we didn't do is let any other productions come in, even if they were there this week and they needed to be gone 3 days next week to come back the following week. We're not going to let another production come in, but they massaged the community way in advance. You know exactly what they're doing. If there ever needed to be some changes, if they come to me, if they come to us, then they know what we're going to say. What did that film liaison say? Or what did that association say? Please put it in an email, because we would not approve anything outside of the permit without the community being aware of it's going on, and long as it's not, detrimental to anybody, I should say. So our noise ordinance is at 10 p.m. But if productions want to film after 10 p.m., they have to obtain signatures from the community that is impacted right then and there. So that means if they're on Kingsdale and they want to go until after 10, then we're going to ask for them to get signatures from everybody on that street, not the other streets in the 3-block radius, but who will be highly impacted right then and there. The signatures does not mean that you guys are for it, because the only people that can deny a permit is our office and the production. But it is saying that you guys received it in a timely manner, and it's going to be late filming. And even then, we still regulate. We're not doing gunshots. We're not doing party scenes. I don't care how late they film. They would have to get that done in a time. Yes, they might need to go after 10 so they can load out. Some people be like, oh, it's just so noisy, they're loading out. And then I ask you, do you want them to go head on and get out, or do you want them to come back tomorrow? And 9 times 10, you guys be like, you know what, go on and get out tonight so we don't have to worry about it. But you would got communities know that, late filming or getting out, signatures. They can't come in before 7 a.m. I don't care if you guys tell me, oh, Cardellia, they can come at 6, we're good. We never allow them to come into the communities earlier than what the noise ordinance allows for coming in. But in the evening, we will allow them to stay late as long as they follow the proper protocol.
I think Julian had his hand up.
I did. I was just really trying to make sure. So like if a car is, like if they park on the street, because I believe on Kingsdale, it's not like, it's a city street, so you can park on the street and not have to have a permit. Did I understand that correctly, or is?
No, if their production is filming, whether it's on Kingsdale, whether it's in wherever it is, if a production is filming and they want to park their cars on the street, they have to have a permit. This is for filming.
Gotcha. Understood.
But if you having a block party at your house or a swim party, your guests can park wherever.
Thank you. I'll inform them of that at the block party that I'm having.
And then to piggyback off what Cardellia was saying, we generally do not allow productions to park crew cars. We always have off-site base camps. We try to regulate that it is production vehicles only. So, you may have a crew of 30 people. It should not be 30 regular cars in addition to the production of vehicles that have equipment in it on the street.
And one
Ms.
of the reasons
Chastain, I
that's
did-
before,
Oh, go ahead.
okay. No, I was gonna say, one of the reasons it's like that is because whenever there is a right of way taken up with a permit, APD has to be on there. APD is there for a few reasons. And they're not there to babysit just the regular crew cars, but the equipment, when you have equipment on that street, APD has to be there, not security, because you know, they can enforce a little bit more, and I don't think nobody's gonna come in and try to take the stuff when APD is there.
And then one more note I can add, and if we have any more questions, when we permit full street closures, there always has to be a fire safety lane. So when a production has a full street closure, even though there may be some set dressing on the street, there always has to be a lane available for EMS, emergency vehicles to get through, and as well as residents too. So just don't think if they're closing your street, you have access at all times. PD will make sure that they allow you into the street so you can safely get to your property.
Yeah. And usually when they do a full street closure in a community, then we ask them to provide placards to the household, so you can just put it in your dashboard so the officers will know, you know, so where they know you're coming in. Now, somebody say, oh, I'm coming to visit somebody, then they might hold them if they're in the middle of filming or something like that. But, you know, we do that just in case people try to cut through. It's already chaotic. So the only people we want to come through is the, you know, the community that lives there. And like I said, when trash people, it's the trash time, when the trash waste management come through, sometimes they see the block off and they'll keep going. And then we'll be like, why didn't you? Because definitely APD is not going to turn you away. That's a no-go. Sometimes they just do what they want to do and we make them come back.
I have a question. How long has home studios been in production or been in existence? And who
Mr. Bean, can you repeat that question for her? I'm sorry, it's breaking up.
residential areas are considered residential? When you bring in a business in, isn't that considered a business?
The question she's didn't hear you. The question that she's asking is how long have home studios been in effect? And then also, if they are a business, do they need to have a business license as well? Is that what your question was?
Yeah, my question is that, but if this neighborhood is residential, how can a business come in and be in existence for months at a time or weeks at a time?
So, you know, this goes back to your homeowner, and this goes back to what these meetings look like. We can't stop a homeowner for wanting to rent their house out for filming. Now, I've had to go and knock on plenty of homeowners' doors because they have overextended production, which isn't fair. And if it gets to, like, if you have one house that just keep going over and over and over and over, and they're not paying attention to you guys, like, listen, we're fatigued, we need a break, let's come up with something, maybe a shot once a quarter or something like that. Then, you know, you can go to buildings. We'll go to buildings and permitting and having to come knock on the door and do a little fine and all that other stuff. But I mean, people use home as locations. And so anybody on here, if they want to film it at their house, it's their house, so they can. We can't regulate that. We don't come in and try to regulate or try to hash things out until we get so many calls from the community, like, this house, they don't even live here. You know, they're not here and they're impeding us. And then I think that that's where, you know, it's unfortunate that your home, your community or your neighbor or that homeowner doesn't take in consideration that really we bought this house because this is where we wanted to live, not to be interrupted, you know, with a film production on a regular basis. And, you know, and so that homeowner is really reaping it because they're getting paid, right? They're getting paid. And so they're not thinking about anybody else. And I don't know if you guys have anything in place if this has happened or anything, because a lot of times when the homeowner isn't living there, it's Airbnb. So when it's Airbnb, the homeowner don't know who renting out to do what. And now that is definitely a no-go to Airbnb it and then rent it out for filming or a video or something. But that usually happens. And if that happens, you know, one time too many, if it's barking a whole lot, then we'll make sure that we put you guys in contact with planning, buildings and planning.
So,
Okay.
oh, okay, Kevin, you're gonna do it? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we've asked all the questions we need to ask to get an understanding of what this filming, move the agenda. We do have this being recorded, so we'll have the notes that can be submitted out to the community. And if there are any additional questions in reference to this, then we do have a contact within the mayor's office and the director's staff that can assist us going forward. At this point, then I'm going to turn the meeting over to Liz, and Liz will take it from there.
So are we done? Are you guys moving over to the next thing, or are we finished?
We are, and I want to say thank you so very much, Cardellia, for you and your staff coming today, and we truly appreciate it. Brought a lot of clarity to it, to this, and I think that we have the I guess the rules, regulations, and what the mayor's office is expecting for these crews to do. And oh, by the way, as far as street parking and everything else, so. Again, we'll put all that into writing out to the community. If there are obviously any infractions or whatever else, then we'll reach out to your staff. And
yes.
unless
I was just going to say that before we leave, you know, if you guys feel like you're not being notified or things aren't really doing what you need to do, we have film liaisons in just about all of our communities. Our film liaisons are there to help to assist the production when they want to film in your community. So what happens is if they send something to us, until they get familiar and know there's a film liaison there, if we see your community, we be like, hey, have you talked to the film liaison? And then we'll send them to the film liaison. The film liaison is there to help them with notifying. So you guys might be like on Nextdoor or something. And so you might want to say, hey, I got a production coming. We would just ask that you kind of keep the name of the production at a discreet, right? From blasting it out, but that you can send it out to your homeowners and even be ahead of time, because what's going to happen is they're going to be savvy. They're going to come to you before they even come to us. And therefore you can go to your community before they even put an application. Hey, we have, you know, a production, you know, they're thinking about filming. This is some of the things. You know, when they come into the community, if you guys have a HOA or something like that, you know, they will provide a convenience fee. We do not get involved with the convenience fee, or we will not issue a permit because they didn't give to the community. I've never had a production though come into a community and not, you know, make a payment. And some of the communities around the city, you know, they use them for if they want to get, you know, cameras in their community, or, you know, whatever you guys want to use it for. I would just say that, you know, maybe beautification of a garden or something, however you guys want to do it. But, you know, that's another way that even if they come to Kingsdale, even if they come to Kingsdale, but you guys have 3 or 4 streets or something, then it kind of everybody can benefit, because maybe at the end of the year, if you have HOA, hey, we had so many productions to come that instead of your HOA being $500 a month, everybody just had to pay $3. We offset it with the production, or, you know, we did something for our students back to school. So there are, you know, so therefore it's not just the homeowner getting something, but that whole community. And what you can do is probably go on our Set South website and look under our community engagement, and you can see our liaisons and you can see the communities. And then, you know, you probably can look at their websites and see what they have. They always have a little rules and regulations. We always like to go through them just to make sure they line up with our film ordinances, and then we kind of go from there. So if that's something that you guys might want to do, just let us know. You guys, you know, you will pick who you want that person to be. And then we would get on the call with them, and we'll just have like a little orientation with them and just give them a little bit more of information about a film liaison.
Wonderful. That's great information to know.
Okay. All right.
And
We
have
appreciate you guys for reaching out to us. Anytime you ever need us, any calls, our numbers are there. Sorry I didn't put my email on there, but I think you probably want my number. It's on me all the time, so feel free to call.
wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, bye.
Liz, you're up.
You're muted, Liz. Unmute.
Good evening, neighbors. I
Hello.
take great pleasure in presenting to you our state representative, Ms. Inga Willis, who actually lives on Mangum Lane. I anticipate that we are going to have a great relationship with her and her office, and hopefully she can give us some insight as to what we can look forward to coming from the state of Georgia through her efforts to improve all of our lives. Ms. Willis, you're on.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Liz. I really appreciate such a wonderful introduction. Hello, neighbors.
Hello.
Hello, Kevin Bean. Hello, Dawn, for tapping on my door sometimes and ringing my phone like, hey, we having a meeting. But I would just like to begin with full gratitude for your support of me, and welcome any opportunity to converse with you. And I started my day at Young Middle School as the graduation speaker. So today is just a community day. So this was perfect. As you all know, and you can jump in and ask questions at any time, by the way, but as you all know, I just completed my first session as your state representative. So I'm considered a freshman legislator. Many of the representatives in the House have been there for a long, long time, right? So there's wisdom in that. But I found I've decided today just to give y'all a peek behind the curtain and just keep it 100% real with y'all on my experience, what's happening, what's coming, and what I'm doing. I also find that also can bring some complacency and approach to things that we have to continue to fight for that are not instant solutions. So first, I'll tell you my committees. So each freshman legislator is given 3 committees, right? So I said, oh, every legislator gets 3 committees, but the veteran legislators, some of them are on 5 and 6, right? Sometimes you don't get the committees you request. We get to request them. I am on the Small Business Committee, which I was pleased about. I am on the Agriculture Committee, which I requested, and I'll tell you about why in a minute. I'm also on a committee called State Planning. So session goes like this. It's from January to the end of March. Our primary objective is to come to an agreement on the full budget for the state of Georgia. So we're talking over a $60 billion argument, to be quite frank with you, right? The things that we talk about are the things that matter to you: healthcare, school choice, all of that. But what I learned in my experience as a freshman was how it goes every day. So each day, legislators present bills that they want to see passed. The Democratic Party, we are the minority party, as you know. And so actually passing legislation that we come up with is extremely difficult, right? But I also found, in full transparency, that if there's something that is important that you want passed, that's where it's important to have relationships across the aisle. And if, as a legislator, we are willing to not get in the way of progress and are less concerned about our name being on a bill or being first, but actually getting it passed, I'm observing that is a more effective approach as we continue to be in the minority. Some of the things that came up this year, and I implore you to watch our sessions. So they're live streamed, and I'm happy to share this with the community once we go back into session. So if you want to tune in, each day we're in session. Some of it is boring, some maybe for you, but some of it is really interesting and crucial information. Funding for higher education was cut by $66 million this year. That concerned me because that made a direct hit on the HBCUs of Georgia, which are in absolutely no position, as you all know, for any hits. On the tail end of that, the president of Savannah State resigned, and I think 15 members of staff and cabinet did as well. So changes at the state level have direct impact on our everyday lives. Most people just don't know how. So if the education budget is cut, University of Georgia can take a hit. It's not really a hit for them given their full operational budget. Georgia Tech is okay, as you know, but our Fort Valley, our Savannah State, they are immediately affected. So that was something that we had it out about, and I mean, had it out about it. And I think you would be surprised to know that one of our advocates who came in, I was surprised, in support of what we were arguing for was Sonny Perdue, who's now the chancellor on the education side. And I knew someone on the board that worked with him. So as we're having this argument, I'm able to reach out to her. She's able to call him. He called in to have a conversation with us. So all the relationships mattered. That did not stop the cuts from being made, but it did put our voice on record and allowed us to stand unified in a caucus position that we will not bend on other things if our HBCUs are on the chopping block in the education budget, if that makes sense. So I don't know if you guys have any questions around that, but that was a major concern to me. That's the space I work in for my 9 to 5.
I have a question. Is the HBCU money budget cut to take care of elementary and high school dollars? Like, was the dollars reallocated? Because we also know that funds for the area are actually up versus a year ago overall. The question is, where was the reallocation?
Right. So to your point, a lot of times when there's a cut in one area, there's a reallocation in another. Interestingly enough, with the 66 million cut, the issue that we had was we couldn't find a reallocation or justification for this specific cut. We felt, and I feel, that it was a strategic attempt to underfund systemically our HBCUs, because I believe there's a long-term plan to create a financial disparity in those institutions, particularly in those public institutions, that will cause mergers with larger PWIs in the state.
Mhm.
So should the first goal be to understand where those dollars were reallocated to? Because I think that is really the strong suit of where were the dollars diverted to.
Right. So that conversation, that question was answered by money going into Hope, right? There was also a fight for the Hope Scholarship that you all are familiar with to also open up and be allocated to K through 12, right? As opposed to just colleges in the state. So that is currently an ebb and flow. It was not solidified, but that is the goal, so that you know that Hope should not just be, and I agree with this, that Hope should expand to K through 12 as well, because we're so underfunded in those areas as well. By the time it's presented to us, it is for debate and a vote, but the majority party has made the decision, and this specific came straight from the governor. So that's another thing behind the curtain, is that when a governor's bill comes to the floor, as a legislator, you have to make the decision of, do I want to fight here, right? Knowing that my committee is, I'm just showing you the interconnectivity of things. If I go against the governor on this here, right? Am I going to get the committees that I'm requesting for next year? And what will my sphere of influence be across other bills? Those are the things that legislators are contemplating. Some people are fearless and just say, whatever, I'll take what comes with it. But ultimately, it comes down to what your district and your constituents want. So the real necessity is to represent what you want, because you are my constituents and my community members, versus what I think all the time. So it is beneficial to know what vote is coming and when, and what you can do to amplify the issue.
So my question is, where the dollar, now I agree, I'm not against them being reaverted to Hope, but the question is, is how much were they reverted to K-8 education and allowing parents to choose if they wanted to divert their tax-paying dollars and their funds to different charter schools and other private institutions that give them more choice.
So
I think it's a
sorry.
question you have to lay out of really not just, oh, we shift or change this, but the why and what we change and what do we get as a option.
I agree with you and I hear you. The school choice was another huge debate this year, as many of you may have heard, and there were parents for and parents against it. Many would like more options. The issue, though, within that seems like a very simple concept. Of course, we would want parents to be able to choose where their children can go to school, right? But the undergirding is what they do in the legislature. It appears one way, but what's underneath it is something completely different. And I find that to be prevalent in the education space specifically. They do not always divert the funds as they should. There's often murky language, and a lot of times they'll create an addendum to a good bill or other language to a bill that has nothing to do with school choice or nothing to do with education that offsets the vote. School choice.
But I think that's the question is we need to understand, even if it's not 100%, what is the percentage averted to school choice? Because I think most people can make the argument and stuff that school choice is key, especially with how competitive Atlanta school district is, and to give especially parents to have an option and an opportunity to choose what's in the best interest for their kids. What is that option? So the question is, it's not just where you drive it to, but the real question, if you look at anything from a, let's call it a Democratic ticket, is really about choice and giving, empowering the true user and the end user and the family. Would you not agree?
I do agree and understand. The issue was the source of funding and where that money was going to come from. It wasn't from that 66 million. The issue with school choice, which was tabled, delayed, brought back up, then tabled and delayed again, because that's something else that they do. They'll keep us on the floor all night to debate issues. If there's a bill that is controversial, holding up my air quotes, depending for whom, they will drag the session out so we don't get to it within our slated 40 days. And then it goes over to next year's session. So there's lots of bills presented that don't get voted on or pushed through. Once they are voted on and pushed through from the House, they then go over to the Senate. So a bill can die in the House or it can die in the Senate. And once bills pass in the Senate, they come over to the House for our discussion as well. So there were a lot of bills passed. So you'll hear people say, I passed this legislation. It very well may die on the other side. The full answers to your question, though, are in the public budget, which I assume you may not have seen, but I can certainly provide. If people want to see exactly how the budget lays out, it's huge, but it's public, and I'm happy to share that with y'all so that y'all can see it.
No, I would like to see it because honestly,
Mr. Hutton.
Hey, folks,
Mr. Hutton.
who's speaking?
Oh, Dawn, I was about to ask a question.
Okay, go ahead. You're
Thank
fine.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let me do it, Dawn.
Okay, well, I do have a question for Ms. Willis, and then we can move on, but I wanted to just.
Hold on a second.
Go ahead.
Okay, hey folks, this is Kevin Bean. Do me a favor, whenever you're speaking, would you please identify yourselves? One of the things we always try to do as well is that we want to learn who our neighbors are and where you are in our community. We want to make sure that we've had meetings before where we've had folks that from other areas that have joined or bogarted into our meetings. And one of the things we want to do is we want to make sure that this is a community meeting and we're asking questions that are particular to our particular community and our interests. So therefore, going forward, would you please identify yourself and at least let us know what street you live on? All right, Dawn, go ahead, please.
Okay.
Sorry.
I agree. I'm sorry about that. The reason why this is very valid, a key statement for me is, one, I live on Kingsdale, and two, I have 3 kids that are in the public school system right now. They're in charter school, and all of my kids are actually registered as gifted. So the ability for choosing, as you all know, how competitive high school and the movement is very key. So I understand the issue and stuff, but if you really understand from the parents who are really in it, the real focus is what can we do to give these kids the best, empower them, and give them the opportunity, especially as they move to high school, where I have a gifted student that is moving to high school after next year. And in Atlanta, it is more rigid and competitive than actually anywhere in the state. And I come from actually New York and New Jersey. I take this to be a high priority for what's impactful to my family.
Sir, I do as well. And in the spirit of community, I would like to hear from our other neighbors, but I've just dropped my information in the chat. I welcome a further conversation with you around the issue. My office is public. You're welcome to visit me and contact me during session or not, and we can further the discussion around it, if that's okay with you.
All right, so.
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Dawn Brockington-Shaw. Before we move on to the treasurer report, I would like to say is that that's very interesting. I definitely will follow up with you, Ms. Willis, because in our community, Southwest Atlanta, we have amazing schools that are, be honest, are in decline. So Mr. Hutton, we can have this discussion, but a lot of us actually want to invest in our neighborhoods, in our community, and make sure our community schools. So actually, as a parent, to let you know, I don't believe in school vouchers. I don't think you undermine your community by, and that's literally what I think. So my opinion, the Republicans and other people are doing is they're undermining, just like Willis said that they're undermining our HBCUs by underfunding them. It's the same thing. When children leave, the money follows. You just keep undercutting the schools until they basically are taken over by the state or they're closed down. They're so under enrolled. So I will tell you that part of being in community and understanding the legacy of this community in Mays High School in Douglas and these schools is understanding that we can actually have very strong schools if we actually invest and we come together. So that's all I want to say on that. That
Dawn,
there is a differing opinion.
If I can just respond to you, thank you for that. It's very important to me. One of the things is I need to know how you all feel about the issues because I've been elected to represent all of us, right? And so we will not always agree. My constituents will not always agree on each issue. One voice that came from several members of all the communities in the district, which hopefully you may know goes from Southwest Atlanta, actually up to parts of Buckhead now, was that people felt like you, Dawn, that providing more resources in one space or choices in one area didn't fix the community school problem. It didn't create improvement in our existing schools. And that was something that was important to parents. They said we should be able to educate our students in our communities, right? So that is the debate. I would like to add this. Surprisingly, Republicans were split on this issue as well. And I don't know if that was communicated to the public because in rural areas, they don't even have those schools for the students to go to. So they said that their constituents would not be in support of it because they were split on it. It got tabled, and pushed because they were in disarray. So we, as a caucus, argued our positions, but allowed them to fight it out so we could see where it landed. And sometimes you need more time to argue a solution and get more inclusion. So I just wanted to share that. But I welcome these conversations, and I don't want to usurp the rest of the meeting time, but if I may, just things that you can do. Many of you have my personal information. I'll drop it in the chat again. I don't know that all of you are on my communication list. So I just dropped my email. If you email me, I'll put you on my list and send you the issues as they're coming down the pipe during the session. And if there are any issues you'd like to see presented as legislation, I would like to know that as well, because that is something that I have the opportunity to do. And I haven't received any yet, but I welcome it. And perhaps that's something we can discuss as a community, or you could tell me, you know, what's on your mind, or we create a space to do just this before, during, and after each session, and I'll make that commitment to do so.
Inga, thank you so very much. We truly appreciate you taking the time out to meet with us today. And as she said, if you want to reach out to her directly and obviously get on her list. Okay, thank you, Dawn. Then you can, and she'll obviously respond back to you. But at this time, we do need to move the agenda along. So I do appreciate everybody's questions, but we do need to move forward so they won't be able to get through the rest of the things we've got. At this time, as you see from the agenda, we will be talking about the treasurer's report. So at this point, would you, who's handling the treasurer's?
I think that'd be me, Kevin.
Thank you, Randal.
All right. As you can see, this is for May. So we had a beginning balance of $318.88. We had withdrawals and debits of $95. We had deposits or credits, and those came from neighborhood dues of $90, which now has us at a balance of $313.88. The debits we had were for the Secretary of State for, Cascade Forest, Mangum Manor, and bank fees. We had deposits from neighbors. Again, for everybody that doesn't know, the neighborhood association fee is $30 per neighbor per household. So if it's one person or 5 people in the household, it's $30. While supplies last, we will offer you a neighborhood flag. We only have a limited amount of those left, so keep that in mind. But just reach out to me or anyone on the executive committee to pay your dues if you're interested. Also, moving forward, I think it's been decided by the body that when we start looking at things like yard of the month, yard of the quarter, and things like that, part of the stipulation in that is that your neighborhood dues are paid. So keep that in mind, and we do nice things like new neighbors packages, or if someone is in bereavement or wherever we can get in and kind of fill the gaps, we try to do that. We're also interested, if anyone is looking to join the executive body, maybe you have been a treasurer before, know a little bit more about a financial report, make it look a lot better than this. We're interested in your service. Keep that in mind. Thanks. Any questions or concerns?
I have a question.
Okay.
When are the dues due each year?
Ideally, they're due the first week of January, but we take them all through the year.
Okay.
Where do we need to get our amount up that we're not charged $10 a month bank fee?
I think, Miss Sally, I think we have to be at $500, but I will check that. That is a very good question.
Because in a matter of just a few months, we're not going to have any money in the bank.
Right.
Reginald, is there a way you can send out a list for what people owe, not only currently, but also a list of dates they want to pay going forward? We can address and get that. I think that's the biggest issue. Is there's really been a lack of communication regarding what's due from a payment standpoint. So most people aren't active, if you think about it from a landscaping standpoint, unless they receive a bill. Most people don't address it.
Gotcha. And I think there may have been some miscommunication about that one. That's just for I think to be considered for yard of the quarter. The body, I think, decided that they wanted your dues to be paid. But I will say this, this year, I think we've had about 7 or 8 families paid thus far. So we're looking for a big influx, and I think it's just that we hadn't had a meeting on a regular basis, but we're changing that right now. And we're also going back to an in-person model or hybrid model where we'll be meeting in person and we'll be doing a Zoom meeting like this. But we'll put my communication in the chat here. So if you want to reach out to me to pay your dues, $30, my information will be there. Or if you want to be considered for this role.
No, I think you've been doing a great job in the role.
You're doing a great job.
Is what is the communication like? That is there an annual email that goes out to people saying your dues are due by X date that covers X time period?
We have not done that just yet. But maybe that's something we should consider in the future, since it may not be at the top of everybody's mind.
Yeah, and you got to keep in mind, folks, that
That help with a lot of the past dues. I think it's passive, similar to the mean. It's not focused top of mind, but the email that goes out that says your dues are due for X time period and covers, for Y. It's almost like a reminder. It just keeps it top of mind. 'Cause like you said, it's a changing landscape. People have a lot of things to focus on, and without a reminder, it's hard for people to, make it a priority.
Yes, sir. Understood.
Okay, Randall, here's your next slide.
Oh, okay. All right. So if kind of forgot about that. The Cascade Road, what are they calling it? The Cascade Road improvement that we've been all hearing about for years. There was a community meeting last week that I was able to attend. I did take a couple of notes. While we may think that there is not a lot being done, according to the city, there is a lot being done. Right now, they're in the process of phase of doing the utilities. So that's the water lines, the gas lines, the power lines are being moved. Once they are moved, the construction starts. So they are still in the middle of that, but this is the anticipated construction right now. No night work is anticipated for construction activities. There will be temporary single lane closures, and that will create traffic delays, obviously. There will be restricted driveway access 24 to 48 hours when sidewalk installation begins. And the area that's going to start first right now in the fall of 2023 is Sandtown to Central Villa. They expect it to be closed about 90 days while they do the streetscape. And then I think in the spring of next year, they'll do Cascade to Dawn. I can't see it all right there. I don't know whether it's my screen.
What do you need?
What is after Sandtown Road to Central Villa?
It's Kingsdale to Tuckawanna.
Yeah.
Okay, Kingsdale to Tuckawanna. That's expected to take place in the spring of 2024. So they're coming down to this end after they do Sandtown to Central Villa. And in the winter of 2024, they're expecting Tuckawanna to Willis Mill Road. Guys, just to let everybody know, they are doing community meetings every 6 months to kind of let you know where they are in the process. And the people that spearhead those programs, they are there at those meetings. It was a lot of spirited debate and discussion. And they took it like a champ and they understood the sins of the past. But it sounds like it's a new regime. So they've started, even though Cascade Road is still a mess, and it's gonna be a mess a while because again, they are doing the under the road work, you know, the utilities. But after that, they'll do the stuff that we can see and appreciate. And if you don't know anything about the Cascade Road project, they it's on the site. I thought we'd had a little QR code scan thing here, but if we don't, we'll get it out to you.
Yeah, we have the link. I can send the link out. It's on the
Okay.
screen too. But I can send it out in the email, the recap email.
Question, is there anything that we need to do to make sure that Kingsdale and the Magnum Manor areas are prioritized as part of tier 2? And I'm just raising it so just like I'm willing to assist and do my part. Like my role is, just so you guys understand, is I oversee data science for all of Weather Channel. So if there's anything I can do and assist, especially from a technology and viewpoint standpoint, I'm definitely willing to play a role.
That's good to know. Let's make sure we get that information. We could probably use you to get us more technologically advanced for the neighborhood association. We'll start there. But that's the information. That's the latest and greatest. We'll put the information out as it becomes available, when the next meeting is. But that's kind of where they are now. So it's going to be sidewalks, bike lanes, all of this stuff allegedly going from Kingsdale all the way down to Central Villa, I believe.
Okay.
All right, anything else for me?
Okay. Thank you, Rick.
One thing,
Do
one
we
thing
know where we stand as far as the historic designation for the neighborhood?
Yeah, hold off on that. We'll get that on the miscellaneous on our agenda, Paul. Hold on one second.
Hey, Kevin, one last thing I want to say is Marcy Collier Overstreet, she was at the meeting as well. And a big gripe for a lot of people in the meeting is that when they did the street breaking, when they did this, when they did that, everything was down here near Kingsdale, and they made it the second phase. So I think a lot of people at the meeting was like, well, this needs to be the first phase, but we don't know the construction points. We don't know why or how they came to that, but they did. But it was mentioned, and they are trying to get this area, Kingsdale specifically, all of this stuff down here moved up on the list. Just a FYI. Thanks.
Is there a way that we can put a call Andrew Young in, because most of the people that lived on this neighborhood had direct first direct contacts with Andrew Young and were a part of that association. So really, especially while he's still alive and living, is he can provide testimony of the value of who Kingsdale has been from a historic sense. He doesn't live here, he lives on Ventry, but his knowledge of the historical knowledge of who has lived on Kingsdale and what they've meant to the growth and evolution of Atlanta is invaluable.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny that you mentioned that. I actually sat by his brother and his sister-in-law at the meeting, and they were very vocal. So I would think if they thought that he could do something to push it along, they would have already pushed that button. But we do have some good contact names and numbers for you. I'll get that posted. I have their card. But I would think the main thing that we can all do is show up at the next neighborhood meeting to discuss it. Thank you.
Thank you, Randall. Okay, Don, you want to put the agenda back up again? What's up next?
Yep, so the next on the agenda is me.
Okay. you
Safety
on.
message. All right, so it's getting warm and I'm seeing more and more people out walking, people I've never seen before. And we thought it would be really important just to kind of give a couple of tips on walking and keeping safe and a little data. So I'm about to scare you a little bit and then I will make you happy. So here's some data around pedestrian deaths. About 7,485 people died on foot, pedestrians in 2021. That's about 20 people per day. I think most of us don't realize how many people are hit by cars and die. And that's not even counting the people that get hit by cars and injured. I have a kid that was actually hit by a car and was severely injured. So it's very real. The data is actually children 15 and younger. It's more than double the number of them that have actually been hit by cars. What's behind this increase in pedestrian deaths? It's speeding, impaired and distracted driving. We all know people on their phones, looking down, being distracted, and other dangerous driving behaviors. Pedestrian deaths have risen 54% over the past decade, and all other traffic deaths have increased by 13%. So the numbers are going higher, they're not going lower. It's actually getting worse. And the percentage, and this one's really big because this directly impacts us, the percentage of pedestrian fatalities where no sidewalk, we don't have sidewalks, was noted on the crash report, rose 67%. So all of us that are walking, it literally jumps our probability or chances of getting hit from an average of 62% over the 4 preceding years. So with all of that, what can we do to stay safe? So we do have a quick little video I'm gonna play. So hopefully everybody will be able to hear this. So
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
What were the deaths actually in Magna Manor and this Cascade area? Because I think personally, the biggest issue from what I've seen, because I walk every morning, has been 1, stray dogs, and 2, unfortunately, coyotes and foxes that especially, I don't know the name of the street, 2 blocks over where they're very wild and abundant. If you walk in the morning, you're like 85% likely to run into a wild fox.
So I'm going to get to that in the next slide, and we'll talk more about that after this one, after this brief little 1-minute video.
Everything that's going on, people are getting out and enjoying nature a whole lot more. Sidewalks are full of bikers, runners, walkers. But what happens where the sidewalk ends?
Went out, Don.
Don, we can't hear the video.
Can you hear it now?
No.
No, we haven't heard it since the guy picked up the book.
Can you hear it now?
Yeah,
Barely.
barely, yeah.
I'll take it back when he picks up the book, because that's the important part.
Walking at night or walking at day. Believe it or not, there is a right way. If no sidewalk exists, neither near, neither far, it's safest to walk toward oncoming cars. It sounds crazy, I know, but truly, it is the right way to go. You see, if traffic's behind you, all you have is your ear, making it hard to know when trouble is near. By turning around, you can use your eyes too. If something goes wrong, you'll know what to do. To be even safer, wear clothing that's bright, especially if you go walking at night. Mom and Dad, you should know that a child's vision still needs to grow. Compared to you and to me, kids see 30% worse peripherally. So look both ways before crossing the road. And don't forget all that's been told. For that's how you stay safe where the sidewalk ends. Have fun walking. Most of all, stay safe.
All right, so that really quick video kind of walks us into our first of our 21 walking safety tips. So the very first one is basically what he demonstrated was walk facing traffic. So I will tell you, as someone who pretty much walks every single day, if you're bumping into people, that means somebody's not walking facing oncoming traffic, right? Because if you're walking towards someone, they really should be on the other side of the street. So it's really important, again, as he stated, just to restate it, that you walk facing traffic in order to be able to adjust. I will tell you, one of our blind hills, if you're coming up Oak Crest going towards Mangum, that hill, people that are coming around that are flying, it is super dangerous, especially if your back is to them. I've had to jump out of the street into grass plenty of times with my dog because cars are flying and they're not paying attention. So walk facing traffic is one of the big ones. If there's anything that you get from this, is if you see our neighbors, I try to tell people and they kind of look at me weird, like, why are you telling me which side of the street to walk on? And it's like, because it's the safest way to do it. So walk facing traffic. Next, we have be seen. So he covered that, just making sure that, especially if it's at dusk, so a couple of people walk early in the morning, that you have flashers, you're using a flashlight, you're using something that, a reflector, your dog, if you're walking on your dog, it also like the harness or your leash, there's something on it that will reflect. And you just want to make sure that people can, again, they can see you. Next one is crossing safely at intersections. This one's for Monty. So he's in a runners club and I actually kind of walk with them one time, but they're really good at saying, hey, it's safe, looking, let's cross now. But again, I see people just randomly zigzagging, diagonally, just crossing. And again, if someone's speeding and coming through, because there are no speed bumps or anything on Oak Crest or Mangum or Braemar, they could easily hit you. Right. And a lot of us are not as nimble as we used to be. So you think you're going to get out of the way, but you may not be able to. Walking single file on the road. I know even when I have company, sometimes we like to walk, side by side. Just be aware, because we don't have sidewalks, that just puts you more in the street. So they recommend that you walk in a single file if you can. Be boring. And this is really just making sure that you're not just randomly kind of walking out, you're not paying attention, you're walking diagonal. You really want to stay as close to the curb as possible, so that you're not basically, in the middle of the street or putting yourself in danger. Walk defensively. Again, I've seen a couple of people just kind of stare people down when they're driving erratically. Keep in mind, I think one of the funniest things they said, it doesn't matter how much you're right, but if you're dead right, what's the point? Right. So the idea is you kind of want to you have to pay attention. And it's really in your best interest to be like a defensive walker, because at the end of the day, you're going to lose against a car. You're not going to win. All right. And so next, always carry identification just in case something happens. And also in your phone, if you identify ICE, like in case of emergency, you want to identify people in your phone so that people know who to call if you're found. I actually have another walker that I know that actually passed out, and we're going to get to that also. So you just want to make sure that if, heat stroke, you're overheat, or you're just tired, any of those things, you want to make sure people can identify you and call people to come and get you. Don't walk alone at night if possible. Again, just make sure that you're bright and people can see you. Give yourself a chance. Keep in contact. Let people know when you're out walking, just in case, coyotes, fox. And I will tell you, the fox den is actually behind my house and my neighbor's house. It's been there for years. I see the fox all the time because it comes through my yard and their yard. So it's real, and it's a whole family, and they're there. So it hasn't been an issue, to be honest. I see them, but it hasn't been much of an issue. Like, I've literally been outside and they just kind of go back in their little den, because there's a heavy wooded area behind me on Mangum, in between Mangum and the street. I always forget if it's Valleydale, or I always forget, but the street after Mangum. So that's where they live. So that's a true thing. We have lots of fox. Be alert. Again, that goes back to, we do have a lot of wildlife, from deer, the coyotes. I've seen the coyote walking, and it's pretty big. Typically, I did a lot of research to find out, like, what do I need to do? I carry a stick so that I would try to hit if I had good aim. But it's kind of, in general, unless they're rabid, like, typically they're not going to attack you. That's what they say. That's what the people say, that they won't really attack you unless there's something wrong with them. And typically you can tell there's something wrong with it. Like, when I say with it, it could be a fox, a coyote. If the fur is manged, like it's mangy, matted, those types of things. So again, you just want to make sure that you're just paying attention to your surroundings. Be alert. Next, don't wear lots of jewelry. There have been people that are walking on Lyndhurst, and we have a lot of sometimes foot traffic coming from MLK. And just randomly, like you could tell sometimes, like you're not walking for exercise or for fresh air, you're just kind of wandering. So again, you don't want to make yourself an easy target. And that goes back to the beware of strangers. Just pay attention to what people are doing. Protection devices, again, I just told you, I kind of wear like I walk with it's called a tire thumper, and it's super heavy. It's like a hickory stick. Like that thing will pretty much kill you, like if it hits you in the head. And it's not too heavy, but whatever it is, mace, pepper spray, whatever you want to carry, just make sure you maybe have something so that if a coyote or something does attack, or even a stray dog, you have something that can possibly help you get them off of you. Keep your earbud volume down. I'm guilty of it. I listen to loud music when I walk, and so I've had to turn mine down to make sure that even when neighbors are speaking, people are like, oh, she's being rude, she's not speaking. A lot of times it's because I'm actually listening to music and I'm trying to keep pace with the music, but it is important just for safety that you can actually hear, even if you just have one in or just have them low. Avoid distracted walking again. I've literally seen people playing games on their phone when they're walking. I mean, you're going to walk into the street and die, so you don't want to do that. If you're walking your dog, again, you want to make sure that the leash is short or you can control them, because you want to make sure that if they get distracted by a squirrel or something, they don't dart into the road and right when a car is coming and get hit. Because a lot of dogs also get hit. So again, you want to, if you're walking your dog, you want to make sure your dog stays safe. Beware of sun glare. Again, this one's really big when you're coming up, because we have some hilly areas, especially Oak Crest at Mangum. Like a lot of times people can't see. So again, you have to be defensive. You can't assume that people actually see you. You've got to make sure you're paying attention and you can get out of the way. Watch and listen for runners. And this is also watch and listen for cyclists. Again, we just want to make sure that everyone has a pathway, that you're making space for everyone, and paying attention, know your walking limits. This one's a big one, as I said before. One of the people that I know that walks, an older gentleman, he actually passed out walking back to his house because he was overheated. So really important to understand your limits and just have safety things in place so that if you do pass out or something happens, people know who to call. And the last one is program 911 into your phone. So if you fall, sprain your ankle, so many things can happen that could cause you, I've had my knee go out, like you fall out. So you just want to make sure that you have 911 so that you can actually just press that button and call if you need help. So those are our 21 walking safety tips. Are there any questions? Nope, they're pretty straightforward. So, go ahead, Julian.
I'm curious to the music that you're listening to.
Oh, I have a great, you have Spotify, I can add you to I have great list. I have everything.
Wonderful. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
One of the questions that or comments that was made in the chat was the hybrid or electric cars, you cannot hear them, but then I think the response to that is if you're walking in the direction, the opposing direction of the cars, then you can see them coming. And then let's see, what was another question here? Let's see, I think it was be alert. I think it was mentioned that someone's peeking in the mailboxes. So be wary.
The box peeks in mailboxes.
Yeah, peeks in mailboxes. So be leery of folks that, could be looking for checks or anything else that might be in your mailbox or anything that of value. So be careful of that. So we haven't got to the point where we need to put locks on our boxes as of yet, because I haven't heard many thefts, but just be mindful of that. Okay.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you, Dawn.
No problem. Well, Liz, you're up.
Good
This is our
evening
last slide.
again, neighbors. This is a housekeeping slide. So if you look at our beautiful yard signs, you can also see that several of them have bleached to the point of being white. We are aware of that. And if you wish to get another flag, we do have some that are still available. They are available upon payment of your dues, and you can get a replacement flag. Mr. Hutton asked, well, how do you know? We have not had a newsletter since I published one earlier in the year, the beginning of the year. But in each newsletter, Mr. Hutton, neighbors are reminded to pay their dues, who they are payable to, and how you can get in contact. So each street has a street captain. On Kingsdale, which is your street, you can pay to Randal, who lives pretty much, no, he's diagonally across from you, or Kevin Bean, who's at the corner of Kingsdale and Clearbrook. Don is on Mangum. I live on Oak Crest, and we are all available to assist in that effort. We all have flags at our disposal that we can issue. The next thing on the slide is dealing with the Department of Public Works. I'm one of the people who still takes a daily newspaper. I enjoy it, but in today's paper, they published the public works schedule for this holiday weekend, which is going to throw trash collection back a day. So for next weekend, the first weekend in June, our trash pickup day will be Saturday and not on Friday. So please be aware of that.
Can I ask one other question?
Yeah.
I know we have a family that unfortunately, has lost a significant member in the neighborhood. And I was really appreciative of you guys including in the latest newsletter. But is there something that from a community standpoint, like either whether it's flowers or something to the family that we're sending? Because the reality is we have a lot of older members within this community. And the reality is I've only been here 10 years. A lot of these people have been here for 40, 60 plus years. They're the backbone of what we are all enjoying today. And do we have, as a community association, a plan of how we pay tribute and respect to them?
Yes, Mrs. Smith's death was recognized the first weekend. A card was taken over to the home. I spoke with their son, and he was the one who informed me how hard Mr. Smith was taking the loss of his wife. And he was one that, after being married for 63 years, I could understand that's like losing his right arm. So, but I will make another visit probably between now and maybe Monday to see how the family is coming. So we do acknowledge every death with a sympathy card. We don't do more because our budget is very slim. By the time we pay the state to keep our neighborhood registered so that we can apply for grants when they become available, and to pay for the Zoom account, that's about all we can do. We have paid money for several small social affairs, but that's about it. We don't have the budget for flowers. But we make it public so that people who wish to do something on their own, they have been informed and can feel free to do so.
Perfect. Thank you. I agree with that. Thank you.
And Terry and I did attend the funeral.
Who attended the funeral?
Roland and Terry Wellmaker.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Wellmaker. Yes. Okay. So one of our early accomplishments was getting the city to take over the Mangum-Lyndhurst Triangle, which is at Lyndhurst and Mangum. We have made that possible. They do keep it up. Every 2 weeks is when they're supposed to come out, mow, trim. One can readily see that they finally trimmed the branches from the trees, so it makes the sight lines much better. We're still in dialogue with the city's Department of Parks and Recreation. So what we're asking for now is to get a repair or replacement to the retaining wall, as well as to plant flowers. Working with the city is very much a slow process. One has to have a lot of patience, but I want the community to know that we are working on it, and all of us want that area to look very good, to represent actually the people who live in this community. So on my list of things, I'll start my list. Well, I've already started, so if I mention something twice, that's why. I've mentioned the solid waste schedule. Make sure that when your yard man cuts your yard or your lawn, make sure that they do not blow the yard clippings down the city drain. That will only cause problems for all of us, namely flooding. So make sure that you have plenty of brown bags on hand. And I know during this last major storm, several of us lost branches. They are still stacked on the curb. When you see that they've been out there a long time, make a call to 911. No, what is it? 311? 311. Yes, and ask them to come and to pick up those yard trimmings. I mentioned the faded flags. A proposal has been made to replace the flags, which are cloth, with a metal sign. And Randal was supposed to send us an idea. Did he ever send it, Don? So that we can look at it. But anyway, we're thinking about switching to a metal sign or a double-sided fabric sign to represent our neighborhood. We would like to have your input. So if you would share your input by going to CFMM community, that would let us know how you feel about it. Maybe we can bring it up when we meet in person. We do plan to have an in-person meeting before the summer ends. I did mention what the dues pay for, the registration with the Secretary of State, Zoom fees, and even though sympathy cards don't cost a lot of money, but we still have to purchase them and we keep them on hand. We really would like to meet in person because COVID is a non-issue now. So, and I think we all need to reconnect with people so that we can keep ourselves very much concerned with what's going on. And it just helps us as people generally to have some type of connection with our neighbors. We all want to know who's living among us. Let's see, going down my list. We would like to honor the graduates in our neighborhood. We've done that every year for those people that are finishing high school, college, or advanced degrees. We would like to know about their successes. So if you will submit a small snapshot of that individual, your family member, as well as a short bio, we plan to get that out in our summer newsletter. We would like to recognize neighbors who work on beautification of their immediate environments with Yard of the Quarter. That was another expense, Mr. Hutton, to buy those signs. So we would like to have that recognition done this summer. An update on the Oak Crest Drive speed control devices. According to Mr. Ofar, we were approved. We are still on the list. They will get to us. So another case of being patient with the city of Atlanta. Mr. Hutton also mentioned the historical package. This is something that we really want to do, is to document the early African Americans who settled in this neighborhood. But Don and I could not get much cooperation from our neighbors. We've passed out
Back in the Kia Studios, the Sports Radio 92.9 The Game.
With questionnaires to provide us information to make it easier for us to go to the courthouse to verify the information. We got 2 of those back. So right now it's in dormant until we get a better understanding from the neighbors as to whether or not they really want that recognition. So that's where that is, Mr. Hutton. And I think that takes all of the
Hello.
Yes, Sally, go ahead.
I apologize 1,000 times. I have this right here on my desk. I'm looking at it. I will get this form completed and back to you before July. I swear I will. I swear.
Thank you so very much. I think I got one from a neighbor on Oak Crest and did not get anything back from any of the neighbors on Mangum. So
that's ignorance on my part, and I apologize. And to each and every one of you, I will get my notes out and I will get busy.
Thank you. So that's where we are with that. Are there any questions for me?
Hey, Liz, Kevin. I'm curious, we talked about getting back out again. Is the neighborhood interested in maybe doing like a little social, like maybe a get together? Maybe we just cook some hot dogs or something and, you know, make an afternoon out of it, pick a day and do it, and just grill something. And, you know, we could do it right at the end of our driveways, pick a street and do it. But is that something that people might be interested in doing?
I would. I see Julian is interested. He said he would some wine.
I want to make one more comment.
I think it's a great idea. My question is, how many houses minimum on a block would you need to participate to make it, you know, a viable option?
I'm speaking of the entire Cascade Forest Mangum Manor community, which is several streets, but we would just come to a particular street and do it. Or we could do it in the triangle.
So we're looking at, Mr. Hutton, Cascade Road from the city limits to Lyndhurst, Lyndhurst to Mangum, Mangum to Braemar, Braemar to Oakcrest, Oakcrest to Clearbrook, Clearbrook to Kingsdale. Those are the streets in our community.
Yeah, and in a portion of Cascade Road.
Yeah.
And I think that's about 115 houses, Liz? I think
Yes.
Was it 112 or 115?
Somewhere along in there, I've forgotten now. When we were working on the historical package, I had all those facts in my head, but I've kind of like let that go. But it's not many. So like like Kevin said, it could be at the triangle or in someone's yard. All of us have nice yards, large enough to accommodate that kind of crowd. So, and everybody's not going to come and leave at the same time. The last time we did this, we had and it was online. We reported to the end of Oakcrest and we passed out hot chocolate and tea. And we did it online. It was a Christmas party and we had a scavenger hunt. Do we all remember that?
Yeah.
And it was really quite fun. So if we can do this in person, it just helps a great deal.
So I guess the question is that do we have some interest in doing it?
Let me look at the chat. We did hear from Julian and I know my neighbor Ron is interested in doing it.
And my own.
The Huttons are interested. We would like to participate.
And the Huttons.
So
Andrea is, well makers are. So I think it's a go.
All right.
I'm
Okay.
trying to figure out how to work this thing. Am I on?
Yeah, you
Yes.
put thumbs up on there.
Okay. All right, sorry.
Monte Fowler says yes.
This is Sally. I say yes.
The Morgans say yes.
All right.
Okay.
All right. I think we're good. All right. Thank you, folks. All right. With that being said, are there any other questions for Liz or anything before we close this out? It's presently 8:04.
Can I be heard?
Sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sal.
Okay. I forgot what I wanted to say now. I could try and figure out how to work this thing. Oh, what you said earlier about the COVID, let me tell you, I just got over COVID.
I was going to ask you, how are you feeling? I heard.
I'm back and I'm back among the living, but do not say COVID is gone.
No, it would never leave us. I was thinking in terms of the government where they're saying, you know, the COVID emergency is over. It's like the flu. It will always be here.
Well, guess where I caught it?
Yeah. And of course,
The
yeah,
medical school, yeah. 250 people and nobody had a mask on and I hit rock bottom. I am among the living again, and so it is for real.
Yeah.
Now, one other thing I'd like to bring up too, there's a rumor going around that there's and I say rumor, that there's anticipation of the Cascade Springs Nature Preserve being renamed.
Hadn't heard that.
Yeah.
that's a question that we can ask Eunice. Eunice was our NPU chair. She was on earlier. If you have a question in reference to that, we can pose that to Eunice. She should know. So
okay. I don't know if it's true or not. I know the preserve is closed right now because of renovations and so forth being done. And I just I'm concerned that I've heard that from two different people. So I'm just putting it out there.
we'll get to the bottom of it.
Spreading a rumor.
So do you have a problem with it being renamed?
Yes, I do. It's Cascade Springs. what are we gonna name it? Kevin Bean Springs Preserve? I mean, it's
Of
Cascade.
course, I wouldn't have a problem with that, but
I know you wouldn't. No, I don't want it changed. I don't care.
It
Yeah,
defines the neighborhood. I got you. It defines the neighborhood.
yeah, it's Cascade,
Mhm.
Cascade and Springs. So what more do you want?
understood, understood.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, folks, it's 8:07. If there's nothing burning that someone needs to bring up, then we're gonna close this meeting out. All right. Okay, folks, thank you for your time. Truly appreciate the leadership for participating and putting this on. You all have always come to the
Kevin, I
to
want to
make this
raise my
work. Yes,
hand.
Liz?
Yes,
Yeah.
I want to ask, who is Sharon Gray and where do you live in the community?
Sharon Gray, okay. Is she
Is she
still on? I don't think I don't see her name anymore.
Does anyone know Sharon Gray?
Yes.
Yes, Sharon lives on Kingsdale. She lives at the that house Monte Rehab with the
Okay,
Next door to the well makers.
okay, we just didn't have a name now, but all of a sudden we saw it. It's like, okay, who is this? All righty, thank you.
All right, got it. Okay, folks, thank you so very much for your time. Hope that you all have a great, blessed holiday weekend coming up and enjoy yourself, but be safe.
Thank you.
Yeah, folks.
Thank you. Wish everybody the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know,